Hello, Canada. My name is John French, and I'm the Director of Marketing Events at the Next 36, and I would like to welcome you to our 2013 application webinar, where you'll have an opportunity to ask questions of myself and candidates that are in the current cohort of the Next 36, learn about the program, and find ways to strengthen your application. I want to thank all of you that have been sending in your questions via email and Twitter over the last few weeks using the Twitter hashtag, #ApplyN36. And I want to encourage you to continue sending those questions in using the same hashtag during this webinar and even after the webinar, because we are monitoring that regularly and we'll be answering those questions. I'm joined today by three candidates that are in the current cohort of the Next 36, Jane, Conrad, and Anne-Marie, and I'd like to have them take a few moments to introduce themselves.
Sure. Thanks, John. My name's Jane Wu. I just recently graduated from Queen's University, where I studied commerce and environmental studies. And I'm originally from Calgary, so I'm sad I missed the Calgary Stampede this year, but I've been having a blast here in Toronto working on Pen Pal.
Hey, my name is Conrad. I studied math and computer science at the University of Waterloo. I grew up in the suburbs of Toronto, and I was involved with a lot of leadership groups such as Impact, DECA, and CUTC. This past January to April, I was fortunate to actually work for a startup in San Francisco, and I've learned a lot of things that are directly applicable to my venture, Keyros.
Hi guys, I'm Anne-Marie. I'm from Montreal and I studied architecture and management at McGill University. I've worked in architecture and project management for a while now, but where I found my true passion for entrepreneurship was while I was working with Engineers Without Borders in West Africa, and where we were promoting entrepreneurial activities there in the communities. And now I'm in Next 36 and working on a venture called StrokeLink, and I hope to inspire you guys to apply.
Perfect, thank you. Many of you have already started your application to the Next 36, and we're thrilled to see that, but we also know that some of you who are watching are learning about the program for the first time. And so I'd like to provide a quick overview and hopefully inspire you or motivate you to apply to the Next 36. The program, the Next 36, is Canada's National Entrepreneurial Leadership Initiative. Every year, we identify and select 36 top Canadian undergraduate students from across Canada and from universities outside of Canada who are passionate about entrepreneurship and innovation and want to build something big for Canada. And we give them the resources to become the country's next generation of high-impact entrepreneurs. As you'll hear during the webinar, the program is pretty intense. It's designed to kind of expand your set of expectations for what you can achieve and to make you feel a little uncomfortable at times. But the benefits and the rewards of being a Next 36 candidate are incredible. And so when you're a candidate in the Next 36, you receive up to $80,000 in seed capital for your venture to build a business in the mobile technology space. You receive incredible mentorship from some of Canada's top business leaders and entrepreneurs, as well as a network of almost 200 supporters, business supporters of the program, many of them who become your advisory resources while you build your business. We bring in faculty that are the best in the world, world-renowned professors from MIT, Harvard Business School, Rotman, Ivy, Wharton, who actually hear about your venture and tailor their teachings towards the business that you're building. We also have incredible corporate partners that provide you with resources to help your business succeed, and they include Ernst & Young, TD Canada Trust, Rogers, Crashlytics, Rackspace Cloud Hosting, and Osler, among many more. And then finally, you get a peer network of some of the most incredible young leaders from across Canada, and you start building relationships for life. So as I've mentioned, it can be a very intense 8.5 months in the program, but when you come out of it, our expectation is that you will have all of the tools and the networks required to be a high-impact entrepreneur and to build something big for Canada. We're going to shift. My colleague Jillian is telling me that some of the questions are continuing to come in through Twitter, and one of the first questions that everybody seems to be asking is, tell me more about the ventures that these three candidates are building. So I'll hand it over to Jane to tell you a little bit about Pen Pal.
Sure, sounds great. So basically, my team, we were all extremely passionate about education. And when we started that ideation process last November and December, we started to talk a little bit about learning. And we realized that when you're a child, you learn through play. So you get to do Lego, you get to do finger paint, but somewhere down the line, I think it's grade 1 or 2, all of a sudden learning means sitting in school and play is something that's only for recess. So at PenUpal, we're all about reimagining what it means to learn through play, and we're really focused on language right now. We've created a game. I know many of you have downloaded it, but we'd encourage you as well. It's free right now on the App Store and Google Play Store. It's called Food Frenzy. And this game combines research in both education, technology, and play to teach people Mandarin in a really fun and effective way. We've been super excited about it so far. We've got 2 more games coming out next week, and it's just been full speed ahead for us. So yeah, that's PenUpal, and we're excited to hear any feedback you have.
Sure. So a bit about Keyros, the venture that my team is working on. As I'm sure you've gone through the whole process of interviewing, whether it's applying for a summer internship or as a job as a camp counselor, or even any sort of student leadership group. You've all been through the whole, sending your resume, schedule an interview, go to that interview, and then things like that. And what my team has built is a simple platform that really disrupts the whole hiring industry. And the way it works is really simple. Employers can simply log on, record video questions using their webcam, and then simply copy-paste a list of candidate emails and hit send. Then as a candidate, you get this email in your inbox that says, congrats, you got this interview with your dream employer. Click on this link to take an interview. You click on that link and you're able to view all these video questions that they've prepared for you. But there's one catch. Once you start, you can't stop. Meaning as soon as the question finishes playing, you maybe have 5 seconds to prepare before your webcam turns on and starts filming your response. These videos come back to your employer and they're able to rate, share, and compare all your response videos with their colleagues in minutes. That's the simple gist of what Keyros is building, and we're happy to announce that Next 36 will actually be using our platform to screen the candidates for next year's cohort in the 2nd stage of the application process.
So my venture is called StrokeLink. And in the beginning of the program, we were really encouraged to tackle really big problems. And when we came together as a team, we created a mandate for ourselves that we were going to make a huge impact in our communities. And the best way that we found to do that is by leveraging one of our co-founder Morgan's experience working in brain injury rehab to find a better way for therapists to communicate their rehabilitation plans to their patients. So right now the standard is basically pen and paper and stick figures of exercises, and people are supposed to use that to do daily exercises. And we found that we could really improve upon that model. So here, us at StrokeLink, we created a tablet application which is designed to empower stroke survivors by really providing them the tools that they need in order to regain their independence. So we provide them with images, videos, and audio files to guide them through their daily rehabilitation exercises and to cater to the different needs that stroke survivors may have after they've suffered a stroke.
Perfect. I'm wondering if our candidates would mind talking a little bit about their experience in the Entrepreneurship Institute. So all of the Next 36 arrived in Toronto at the beginning of May. They're living in residence at the University of Toronto with their other co-founders, building their businesses, participating in lectures and classes with our Next 36 faculty, pitching to investors, potential partners, and really finding out what it's like firsthand to build a business. So maybe you'd like to talk a little bit about what it's been like here this summer. Jane.
Sure, sounds great. So for me, I think every single day has just been phenomenal. I kind of wake up and I pinch myself because I learn something completely new every day, whether it's, like John mentioned, pitching to investors or actually getting to take classes with some of the best faculty I've actually ever had in my life. And the really fun part though, and I think what really sets Next 36 apart, is the fact that you get to know your team and you live together and you work together. It's 24 hours a day. But for me right now, I just feel like I gained 3 new best friends and 3 new business partners. So it's been kind of phenomenal in that sense, and it's just been so unique. And I think I speak on behalf of all of us. It's like every day is a huge adventure.
Yeah, I think Jane covered it really well. For me personally, I think it's been just a whirlwind of emotions. Every day you just wake up, you have maybe 20 or 30 roadblocks or obstacles that you need to overcome that day to really have your venture progress. And so pretty much from the second that you wake up, your brain just turns on and you're instantly thinking about, oh, what do I have to do next? What do I have to do in an hour? What do I have to do in 5 hours? And so I think the past 3 months have just been like this non-stop, just go, without even spending a few seconds to think to ourselves like oh wow, like what are we actually doing? And I think the faculty has been really supportive, especially because they actually tailor their teaching specifically to our ventures. So they've been incredibly supportive and incredibly helpful.
Yeah, they've covered it really well. You really, during the Summer Institute, you eat, sleep, and breathe your venture. You're living with your team and you're working on it 24/7. But in that kind of format, it's really dangerous to get too bogged up in the details of your business. But what the program does really well is they open up your eyes and expose you to a bunch of things that you would never have access to. The incredible mentors that are with you 100% of the way. The amazing faculty that you would never have access to in your individual universities from all across North America. And so it's really interesting to be able to dive deep into your venture, but also be exposed to the world in the same situation.
Perfect. One of the questions that's coming in relates to eligibility and criteria. You're asking us who is eligible for the program and what does it take to get into it? What are we looking for? And so the program is open to Canadian undergraduate students from any university, again, that could be in Canada or outside of Canada, that are interested and passionate about building a business, have experience and demonstrated entrepreneurial drive or passion. Now that could mean that you have built a venture previously. That could mean that you have started a social enterprise or a not-for-profit in your community. Perhaps you've been involved with a campus club that you created at your university, and also you're academically strong. We're looking for university students in their third, fourth, and then sometimes if it's a 5-year program, the 5th year of your university program that have an academic track record and can demonstrate that they have the intellectual horsepower to match the passion for entrepreneurship. So those are the things that will make you not only eligible, but are the criteria that we're looking for when we receive these applications. We want to see that passion in your application. I have a great question that has just come in, and it has to do with Francophone students. And we've been lucky this year. We have 4 Francophone students in the program, and we want to have more. And so perhaps, I guess the first point to make is that the program is delivered in English, but having 4 Francophones and one of them with us, I thought we would ask Anne-Marie to talk about her experience.
Oui, tout à fait. Merci, John. Pour tous les francophones qui écoutent le webinaire en ce moment ou qui vont l'écouter par après, le programme est totalement ouvert à vous. Dans la première cohorte, il y avait un étudiant francophone. Cette année, il y en a 4. Et le programme est vraiment pan-canadien. Il y a des gens de la Colombie-Britannique jusqu'à l'île du Prince-Édouard. C'est vraiment une opportunité de rencontrer des gens qui viennent de tous ces coins-là du pays, incluant le Québec et le Nouveau-Brunswick qui parle français aussi. Puis c'est vraiment une opportunité de rencontrer des gens de tous les domaines différents. Donc je vous encourage à appliquer. John a dit que le programme est livré en anglais, donc les cours et la plupart des présentations, mais considérez ça comme une raison de plus de vous engager, de vraiment rendre ce programme-là bilingue et contribuer à vous. Et une dernière chose que je dirais, c'est que ce programme est magnifique et il y a des gens ici qui parlent anglais, qui parlent français, mais il y a aussi des candidats qui parlent 3, 4, 5 langues. Donc, ne considérez pas le français comme un obstacle à participer à ce programme-là.
Merci, Anne-Marie. The next question that comes in, and I believe it's from Diljo, and I apologize if I mispronounce that, has to do with what qualifications the Next 36 selection committee is looking for when selecting the candidates, but also what the candidates feel they had in their application that might have made them stand out. And so I've talked a little bit about being involved at your university and creating clubs and starting ventures, but perhaps we could start with Jane, and if there are awards or competitions or venture experiences that you might have had that you feel strengthen your application that you could share with our viewers.
Sure, thank you. So I am a Shad Valley alumni. I did Shad UBC 2007, so I think that certainly opened my eyes to entrepreneurship. I was also involved with Impact Entrepreneurship Group, kind of on a voluntary basis. So those were kind of the really entrepreneurially related ventures. And for myself, I was always more in the nonprofit side of things. So I worked with State Farm Youth Advisory Board. I also worked with TD Friends of the Environment Foundation and sat a little bit more on like the service learning and kind of community building kind of piece. I should mention, though, that I was involved in a venture previously. So my Shad team actually continued on with a venture, and we ended up going to business plan competitions in Hong Kong and across Canada, and that was kind of that hook that really got me excited about entrepreneurship, and I think that passion and that desire to create a new venture really, really shone through.
Yeah, like Jane, I was also a Shad alum, Lakehead 2010, and I was also involved with the Impact Entrepreneurship Group. And I think for myself, I was involved with a lot of sort of groups and organizations that deal both with student leadership as well as entrepreneurship, whether this be creating sort of any new programs to really push and try to get students, whether they're in high school or in university, to try to take the risk and actually try to start something new. I think that's one key thing that a lot of people look for. Myself, I actually sort of started a own venture on the side with one of my friends. It was basically a student housing search site. And so I think the Next 36 is just really looking for people that take the leap and actually try to actually start something on their own. A lot of people will say, oh no, what's the point? You'll probably fail. But it's, if you're one of those people that say, like, sure, I'll get all that feedback, but you actually want to take that leap and say, no, I want to, prove to everyone else that I can do it. I think that's one of the key characteristics.
Yeah, for those who don't have their resumes stacked with previous venture experience, it's really about showing that you have the ability to translate an idea into something real. So whether that be in a school initiative, I worked a lot with Engineers Without Borders during my degree, and I really attribute a lot of my recent achievements to the foundation and the learnings and the personal development that I experienced through working with them. It's really important to continue to challenge yourself, try things that you aren't necessarily related to your degree or your background of study. So get outside of your classroom and go out into your community and try things and try to improve upon things that you see that could be improved upon.
Perfect. Thank you. We have a great question from Payush Kumar, who's asking a follow-up about marks. And his question is, how important are marks, or is more emphasis placed on entrepreneurial experience? And the reality is that we expect the candidates in the program to be exceptional in at least one of those areas. And when it comes to marks, the minimum requirement is a B, or on a GPA scale, it's a 3.0. And the reason for that is when you get into the program, you're learning from some of the most incredible faculty from around the world. You'll be hearing from a Harvard Business School professor on venture finance who teaches that curriculum to MBA students. And so on the academic side, which is a major component of the Next 36, it's like drinking from a fire hose. And so that is why we place such an important emphasis on both the academics and also the venture or the entrepreneurial experience. I'm going to send the next one to the candidates to talk about the formation of their teams, because we have a commerce student, we have someone who's involved in computer science, and we have an architecture candidate that's here today, and completely different backgrounds. And I thought maybe they could talk a little bit about the breakdown of their teams and where the candidates are from geographically, and also based on their field of study. Starting with Jane.
Sure, sounds great. So I'm really lucky. I have a great team which consists of Jessica, who's originally from Calgary but studied at Simon Fraser University in Vancouver, and she graduated with a degree in user design and also business. So she's a phenomenal designer and really has been critical to our venture. Referral Ditwald, he's a University of Toronto graduate from Toronto as well, and he graduated with a degree in engineering science, but he is a code guru. And also Ryan Wagner, who's originally from Kitchener and graduated from University of Waterloo with a degree in nanotechnology. So you can see we're all over the map in terms of both degrees and also a geographic location, but it's been just so phenomenal. I don't think our paths would have crossed otherwise without Next 36, and they're kind of some of my closest friends right now.
I think my team is the direct opposite of Jane's. I think Jane's team might be one of the oldest. My team is one of the youngest teams in the program right now, and we have probably the least diverse in terms of the programs that we're studying. Myself, I'm in computer science at Waterloo, as well as two of my other co-founders, Edward's son and Max Brody. Edward's also computer science and a double degree in business administration from Laurier, and Max is studying knowledge integration with a joint in computer science. Then we also have Emily Cushman from the University of Windsor, and she just graduated from the Adet School of Business with a major in strategy. And I think for us, especially just because we're so, heavily stacked in the sort of the tech side of things, it really has helped us really move forward on the product really quickly and just reiterate through all these prototypes that we've been building.
Cool. Well, my team's a little bit more spread out. I mentioned Morgan earlier. She's from Calgary, and she graduated from the University of Calgary with a degree in kinesiology. She also has tons of experience in brain injury rehab, which is very critical to our venture. And we have Ben, who's from PEI and is studying computer science at the University of PEI. And then there's Simon, who's originally from New Brunswick, but studied at St. Mary's University in entrepreneurship and finance. And then myself in architecture from McGill. So we're pretty much spread across the country, and it's really great to be working with a team that has such diverse skill sets, because we can play to each of our strengths in applying it to our venture, and that way we can achieve much more than we would if we were all coming from the same space.
Perfect, thank you. We're getting some questions coming in about the mechanics of the application process. So I want to quickly walk through the different steps in this year's application process. I also want to point out that later on this week we'll be posting 2 videos on our website. One featuring our Chief Venture Advisor, Christian Lasson, who will be walking through some of the different ways to strengthen your application, as well as the ins and outs of going through the different stages of the Next 36 application. The second video will feature our Executive Director, Claudia Hepburn, and one of the co-founders of the Next 36, who will be giving an overview of the benefits and kind of the details of what the Next 36 is all about. So stay tuned for those. But for those of you who applied last year, you'll notice this year that we have simplified and shortened the amount of time it takes to complete the application process without sacrificing the amount of information and our ability to assess the candidates that come in. So it means that you should be able to complete the application in a little less time than it took you last year. Stage 1 is really where we collect information on the program that you're in, the academic program. We'll ask you a series of 2 short essay questions, and I encourage you to spend a lot of time preparing your answers to those questions, which will be asking you about the entrepreneurial experience that you've had and demonstrated, and why you feel that you would be a good candidate for the Next 36. And we'll also be asking some basic information on your GPA as well as technical skills. Candidates can complete it in a fairly short amount of time, submit it, and if you have submitted your Stage 1 already, we're expecting to go live with Stage 2 next week. So check your inbox, and hopefully you'll hear from the Next 36. Stage 2, as Conrad mentioned, is a Keyros-style interview where you will have pre-recorded video questions sent to you, and you'll have a limited amount of time to prepare and to respond to those questions. Kind of replicating the real-time interview environment. You'll also be asked to submit your transcript at that time. And then later on in the process, the candidates that are identified and are selected and invited to our national selection weekend at the end of November will also be asked to provide a reference, either an academic or professional reference. I want to highlight 3 important dates, and I want to place emphasis on the first date, which is September 18th. That's our early application deadline. I encourage all of you that are watching this to get your applications, Stage 1 and Stage 2, completed by the early application deadline. And the benefits of that is that we will be reviewing the applications that come in prior to that deadline and extending up to 10 spots at our national selection weekend for people that have applied by September the 18th. It also shows us at the Next 36 that you're keen about the program, and I encourage you to consider applying by that deadline. We'll be reviewing the applications that come in for Stage 1 on a continuous basis, so you will hear whether or not you get pushed to Stage 2 relatively quickly. From all of the applicants that come in on October 22nd, the final Stage 1 application deadline is when you must have completed that first stage of the application process, and October 25th is the final application deadline for Stage 2, when everything must be in. From those applications, our selection committee will review all of the applicants and extend, again, approximately 70 spots to applicants to come to the National Selection Weekend in Toronto. Those costs were covered this year, where we will kind of put the candidates or the applicants through a mini Next 36 where they could be interviewed, they could hear from speakers that are involved in the program and mentors, and from there we'll identify the Next 36 that will become part of our 3rd cohort. Again, if you continue to have questions about the application process, feel free to continue using the Twitter hashtag, which is #ApplyN36, and also to contact us through our email address. The next question that I'm going to throw out is a tricky one for our candidates, and I want them to identify the most challenging part of the program for them thus far, starting with Jane.
Sure. I think the first thing that comes to mind is just getting enough sleep. I know all 3 of us are sitting here sleep deprived and pumping on caffeine. I think there's just a million things that you want to do. You really want to leverage all of the awesome opportunities that Next 36 presents during the summer. So it's just finding that balance between working really, really hard on your venture, doing well in the academic component, but also still having time to sleep and talk to friends and family. That's probably the trickiest part for myself.
Yeah, I think for myself, since I don't drink coffee, right now I'm just pumping on just pure energy and adrenaline. I think for me the trickiest part is really trying to fit the right things within the 24 hours of each day that you have. It's really easy to have meetings take up the whole day, and then you have class maybe or an assignment that you have to do later tonight, and then by the time you know it's already the next morning, you still haven't done any work. So it's really, you really have to look at which meetings will be beneficial to your venture and which ones aren't that important, and really try to figure out, which are the top 3 priority items to get done today, and then focus on them.
Yeah, I think in my case, not coming from either a business background or a technology background, my biggest struggle in the beginning was really learning the language. So getting the lingo and the jargon down for all the business terms and all the technology and coding terms, so I could basically use those terms to my advantage and be able to communicate with the people that I was working with, and with the stakeholders in our business. So my advice to you guys who feel like they're somewhat in my situation is YouTube stuff, go on TED Talks, just like get a sense of those two worlds, because whether you're from these backgrounds or not, it's going to be part of your reality starting as soon as you apply. So. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And that's a perfect segue into a question that has come in through Twitter from Kevin Non, that's asking about the amount of programming knowledge does the average N36 participant need to have. And as you've just heard, there is a wide range of programming, coding, development knowledge on each of the teams based on the candidates' academic backgrounds. Each team has candidates that are technically strong. It is not a requirement that you are a programmer or a coder to be part of the Next 36. As Anne-Marie just mentioned, if you're looking for a way to strengthen your application, we encourage you to look at the YouTubes. Code Academy is another fantastic option. Ladies Learn to Code is another option to figure out ways prior to your application or prior to selection weekend to strengthen this skill set. Because the teams build businesses that are in the mobile, web-based, tablet space, being able to speak the language, you'll find a huge asset. But again, it's not a requirement to get into the program. It's just something that you can do to strengthen your application. So a really good question from Kevin. I like this one as well. We're still a month out, a little under a month out from Venture Day. And Venture Day is August 14th, where our teams will pitch here at Mars, one of the hubs for innovation in Canada, in front of an auditorium that's filled with investors, various stakeholders, partners from across North America. So pretty exciting but intense experience. Even though that's still 3 or 4 weeks away, have your ventures thought about what you're going to do, and have you personally thought about what you're going to do after the program ends?
Yeah, so Peñopal is continuing on full force. We're really excited. We've actually got one of our developers who's joining the 4 of us as well. So we'll have 5 people working full-time in September, and we're starting to raise seed capital right now. So it's full steam ahead for us, and look for a lot more coming from Peñopal.
Yeah, so Keyros pretty much in the same sort of, stage. We are continuing in September. We are also raising seed capital, and we do have people committed, as well as we're bringing on people onto our team. We have almost 24 businesses that are committed to using it, and a few customers that are committed to paying us. So the future looks good.
Yeah, I think I speak for us all when we're really in the stage now where we're actually growing the team beyond the 4 co-founders. All 4 co-founders of StrokeLink have committed to staying on. We're running pilots right now with our product in a rehabilitation clinic in Alberta, and also a few hospitals here in Ontario. And so we're going to be moving forward in both those provinces, really putting the product to use in those institutional settings, and starting on a few clinical research initiatives in the fall as well, which is super exciting for us. So if you're looking for a job, email me at annemarie@strokelink.ca, whether you're a coder or you have a passion for healthcare innovation, reach out to me.
Nicely done. Nicely done. Our next question comes in, I believe, from Twitter from Ali Jawani, who's asking if your team is missing the people or the skills to actually create the venture or prototype, how do you get around it? And I'll start it, and then I'll pass it off to our candidates. So we have an incredible number of advisory resources that provide expertise in areas that are technical, areas that relate to branding and marketing, market research, and we also provide a lot of those resources and that expertise through our partners. Mars provides market research, and we've got some incredible support on the legal side from one of our partners, Osler. Ernst & Young provides support in accounting, finance, consulting, professional services, and so you've got this incredible wealth of resources available to you. The second part of the question kind of relates to actual bodies and the horsepower to build where you might not have the people or the expertise. And so I'd ask the candidates if they run into a problem where they don't have the people to get something done, how they've been able to address it so far this summer.
Sure. Well, you guys are going to hear a lot of this from Reza Sachi, one of the co-founders of the Next 36. As an entrepreneur, you've got to think outside the box. Don't let the resources currently under your control limit you. So at Penn Pal, what we did was we brought other people on. In fact, I think all teams have. So while there are 4 co-founders, everybody's been able to find interns or contractors. You find a way to kind of be creative and make it work. So certainly don't let that deter you from applying or deter you from dreaming big with your venture.
Yeah, I think Jane pretty much covered it. Right now, Keyros at I think 9 or 10 people. We have sort of an office with chairs around. So we've transformed sort of a living room like suite area into a proper desk where we can all pretty much work and eat and things like that. And it just comes down to just going through your networks and trying to figure out who do you know or who do you know that might know someone else that can try to help your venture out. And right now you might not have the resources that you need to get something done, but it's all about just going after all these opportunities.
Yeah, being resource constrained is difficult to deal with sometimes, but it also really forces you to be creative about how you're going to get to your end goal that you want and rethink what that end goal really means to you. It's really touched our venture in some ways where we didn't have the human capital to achieve the goals that we wanted in the short term. So it forced us to rethink, well, what if we did this in this way? And it would actually be better for several other reasons. So being creative with the resources that you do have is definitely something that you learn throughout the program in a very real way. But the Next 36 has the most expansive network, and if you don't know where you can go to get what you need to get done, somebody in the program will. And so it might not be a first connection, but it might be through 2 or 3 other people that you'll find what you need to get.
Perfect. We've talked a little bit about how the teams are formed coming out of selection weekend, but one of the questions that has been asked is, do the candidates or the applicants get to provide any input into this process? And there are a number of ways that they do get to do this. And something that's brand new for our 2013 applications is that when you apply in stage 1, you can list co-founders or other students that if both were selected to get into the program, you would be interested in working with. So that could allow you to potentially work with someone who you built a venture with at your university. Or if Jane knows someone in Shad from back in the day that she got along with really well and thought would be a good co-founder, it allows the selection committee to consider that when building the teams. The 2 other items, or 2 other instances where the applicants do get to provide input into the team formation, have to do with a speed networking or a speed dating component of our selection weekend, which took place last year, as well as the idea platform, the ideation platform that takes place heading into selection weekend, where you get to see the ideas of some of the other applicants to the program. And so maybe I'll put this out to this year's candidates to talk a little bit about the idea platform and how they were engaged with that, and then secondly, the speed dating, speed networking component of selection weekend.
Sure. I'll try to keep it short this time. The idea scale was really cool because you got a chance to put out some ideas and see what everyone's kind of passions or thoughts or interests were, and just get a feel for some of the candidates before selection weekend. So I thought that was tremendously useful, and especially the comments portion and just interacting with others was really, really great.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Jane said, I think just from looking at the ideas that people are posting, you can kind of get a good sense of people you might want to work with. I remember just emailing and messaging a few people being like, oh, I'd love to talk to you during selection weekend about some of your ideas. So I think it was a good basis to start building your relationships. And regarding the sort of speed dating, within the first minute or two, you're to get that really good sense of whether you sort of want to work with that person or you're not on the same level as them, which is kind of what Keyros is all about. And I think that just going through every single person, you get the really good sense of like, oh, I want to have these few people on our team. And I think, you kind of quickly learn about which people you gel with well and which people you probably shouldn't be on a team with.
Yeah, the most important part of this program is definitely the people. So the more that you can learn about them, the better, whether it be before you get selected, during selection weekend, or even throughout the program. So the IDEA platform was a huge catalyst to that. But even in Montreal, there were 10 finalists that were from Montreal, and we got together even before selection weekend to learn more about each other and just see what our fears and our anxieties were about selection weekend and just kind of bond over that. So coming into selection weekend, it made it a little bit less scary. And trust me, selection weekend is pretty intense. You're pretty much like you're in a ping ball machine. You're getting bounced from one place to the other, whether it be trying to make deep connections with the 70 finalists or with the people that are interviewing you. So try and take every moment that you have beforehand to try and learn about the other finalists.
Perfect. And kind of to build off of that, we just got a question in from Alyssa through Twitter, and it's, do you need to have started something right from scratch to be accepted, or are you looking for general leadership and other entrepreneurial elements? And we have applicants that come to the Next 36 with either ventures that they have built and that have been successful, and in some cases are continued to work on during our remote period. The only piece to highlight is during the Summer Entrepreneurship Institute, our expectation is that you're 100% focused on the program and the Next 36 venture that you're building, and that has to be entirely what you're focused on. So we have people that come to the program with existing businesses, and we have people that come to the program with ideas. Business plans from competitions that they've done. And part of the IDEA platform is to bounce around these ideas off of the other applicants and figure out which ones might work, and ultimately maybe convince some of the other candidates about why your idea is a good one. There's also people that have demonstrated entrepreneurship in ways unrelated to a business. And if I could give you another tip for strengthening your application, it would be to broaden your definition of what entrepreneurship is and look at the other things that you have done that have shown innovation, that have shown where you looked at a really big problem and found a creative way to solve it. And again, that could be a for-profit business, that could be a not-for-profit or a social enterprise that you've worked on, or something that you've done in your school community or in your larger community. And be sure to highlight those in your mobile interviews in stage 2, and also where appropriate during the stage 1 of the application process. So thank you for that, Alyssa. Another really good question that keeps coming in has to do with the selection weekend itself. This intense 2.5-day experience that all of the candidates have gone through. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about what selection weekend was like for you.
I think Anne-Marie and John both used the best word, which is intense. It is a huge whirlwind, but if you're lucky enough to get into selection weekend itself, it's actually a phenomenal opportunity just in itself. In those 2 days, you get exposed to great speakers, you get to meet some of the smartest and bright people from across Canada, and the energy in the room, it's just crazy. Like, it's always such high energy. So I look back on the weekend and it's a bit of a blur, but I know I had a good time. I know I survived it. I know I didn't sleep very much, but these are all things that are kind of a trend throughout the Next 36 program. So it's the best first kind of taste.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess just to add on a bit of my own experience, after we were all selected within the sort of the Next 36, we were then sort of asked to pitch for the next day about some idea that we put together over the course of the next 12 hours. And I remember my team, we were up till 4 in the morning. I get back to the hotel bedroom, and my roommate still hadn't come back. And I was like, I have no idea what he's doing or where he is. I go to sleep. I wake up at 6:30 because every day was just bright and early. And I see him standing there, and I'm thinking that my alarm just like woke him up, but it turns out he had just gotten back from his team just from all that brainstorming. And so I think that whole weekend, everyone was just going straight on adrenaline, all that energy and excitement that we had. And it was just an overall just huge mix of emotions, but definitely amazing.
Yeah. I just got so consumed in Conrad's story. I was like, that was exactly my experience. It's crazy intense, but it's definitely a 72-hour time capsule that foreshadows what the rest of the 9 months are going to look like. It's crazy. You just need to be prepared when you come to selection weekend if you're fortunate enough to be one of the finalists, because you need to capture every single minute that you're there. There's some people at selection weekend that you absolutely want to talk to, be it the more than a dozen interviewers, amazing speakers. So just try to be alert all the time about trying to meet the great people, trying to soak in the key messages that the speakers have to tell you, because I think we still talk about anecdotes from selection weekend today because it's such it's ingrained as the starting point for all of this. So,
great question coming in multiple times. The last one I saw was from Rapid Solutions, just asking about the process that a former participant in the N36 would go through to refer a student. And what I would say to address that is that there are two groups that seem to be really impactful when it comes to encouraging the next cohort of applicants to apply. One is faculty or university representatives, so I would advise you to connect with the people at your home university that are familiar with the program. And the second most important group are people that have gone through the Next 36, because better than anybody else, they can speak to both the intensity and that feeling of discomfort, but also all of the great things that come out of the program. And it's powerful at our end, at the Next 36, to see one of the candidates or one of our alumni identify and refer someone to the program. So I would encourage you, if you know someone who has been involved with the Next 36, to reach out to them, to connect with them, to find out as much as you can about the program. And then reach out in our application. There is a referral program where each applicant is able to provide a code to candidates that they think capture all of the qualities that we're looking for in the Next 36. But we've cautioned them to be very selective with who they give those codes to. So, great question. Nikki is asking about mentorship. And all of you, I know, have some incredible mentors. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how they've helped your business and possibly how they've helped you personally as well.
Sure, sounds great. So Penyopal's mentored by Sarah Pravette, who's the founder and CEO of Sprouter and Beta Kit, as well as Alex Moorhead, who's the managing partner of Tandem Expansion Fund. And they are both, first of all, really cool people who've done awesome things with their lives. So just getting to spend an hour with them is amazing, much less us, where we spend 9 months of time working with them. For us, they've just been amazing sounding boards. I think when you work as a team of 4, you tend to fall into like this really deep mode of groupthink, and it's nice to have an outsider kind of pull you apart from that a little bit. But they've also just been an emotional support for us as well. I know they've talked to each member of our team, sometimes on personal issues. They've just been a great rock for us.
Yeah, so Keyros mentors are Krista Jones, practice lead at the Mars Discovery District, and John Kelleher, president and CEO of RHB Group. John and I were actually on CBC Radio yesterday. And I think, just to add on to what Jane said, the mentors are there, always to support you. They're there 24/7. I know John calls us every morning at like 7 a.m. saying, "Why aren't you up? You should be doing work." And I think that the real push is right there, and it's so beneficial to our team. Krista works closely with easily over 100 startups, so she really brings that sort of startup expertise, while John is more on the corporate management side, and he brings a lot of sort of management skills and sort of just planning long-term things that are just extremely beneficial to our business. So I think the two of them combined have been a great add to our team.
Mm-hmm. So the mentors for StrokeLink are Craig Campbell, for CEO of Total Security Management, and Vicky Saunders, who's a senior advisor here at Mars, but she's also led ventures like Zazengo, Impact Nation, and Kids Energy. And they're both absolutely phenomenal. I think Vicky's really helped us with our personal development and trying to achieve greatness individually and with our venture. Craig has been magnificent in connecting us with people that we didn't think we would have access to. I think back in January when we first started talking about creating an application for stroke, he's like, oh, my skiing buddy's the CEO of the Heart and Stroke Foundation. We should get you guys in the room together. We're like, okay, great. but like Jane said, both of them are great sounding boards for our business on all fronts. So they are absolutely hands down the greatest thing about this program, and I think they're going to continue supporting us past the end of the next 36. So amazing connections to make.
Well said. Great question coming in from Twitter. This one's from Connor Lyons, who's asking, I've heard there's a growing preference for rising seniors or senior students in the program, more likely able to commit full-time and to continue the ventures. And as I mentioned off the top, the eligibility criteria is that you're a Canadian undergraduate student in your third, fourth, or if you're in a 5-year program, fifth and final year of study. And the answer to the question is that yes, if you're in your last 2 years of study, or even to the next step, if you're in your final year of study, there's a higher likelihood that you'll be able to complete the program and then continue full-time with your venture that you're building. So it has to do with commitment, but also in some cases, not all cases, it has to do with the maturity level and the experiences, the life experiences and business experiences that the students had. So if you are in your final year of study coming up, even more encouragement, more reason to apply. Although again, third, fourth, and fifth year. And if you're applying and you're not graduating, definitely apply the following year and listen to some of the pieces of advice, the ways to get involved, the way to strengthen your application, and focus even more on those over the next year. And that will position you for success the following year when you apply. Great question from Connor. I know a few of you have had some neat experiences outside of Canada during the summer. I know that Penny Opal was in Silicon Valley, and a number of our ventures were able to pitch in New York City. So maybe we'll have Jane talk about Silicon Valley, and then Conrad talk a little bit about NYC.
Sure. So we talked earlier about how Next 36 really teaches you to think outside the box and really dream big. So Penny Opal applied to be part of a conference called Launch. It's run by Jason Calacanis, and it's one of the largest conferences in the Silicon Valley. And this year they were focused on education technology. So we applied, and there was an initial pool of 300 that got whittled down to 180, and then they finally chose 30 startups that got to pitch live in the Silicon Valley. So we were lucky enough to be chosen and ended up, first of all, sharing the stage with people I had seen give TED Talks, or people I knew had raised $10 million Series A rounds. So I was like shaking and freaking out. But it was actually really cool because we ended up walking away with the best overall Phase 1 Startup Award, and it's been a phenomenal momentum for us moving forward. So certainly Next 36 is just the beginning, and there's so many things that you could do with that kind of as a great springboard.
So Keyros, as well as a few other ventures, were invited to pitch at an event hosted by the General Assembly in partnership with the Canadian Technology Accelerator. This was on a Tuesday night last week. And something that you'll learn about the Next 36 is that whenever you're given an event, you don't just go to the event, pitch, and you go home. You really try to take as much advantage from that trip or event as possible. So what I and one of my co-founders did was that we pretty much booked our whole week full of meetings. We reached out to maybe 30 or 40 different entrepreneurs, both Canadian and American, that were living in New York City, actually working on startups, whether it be through incubators such as Techstars or just on their own. And so we pretty much had a meeting every single hour for 3 or 4 days, just set up with those entrepreneurs. And the great thing was that entrepreneurs in general are just really supportive of each other. And so, when we came back to Canada, right now we have a good list of maybe 10 entrepreneurs in the New York City area that are just waiting for us to come back, and they're willing for us to have either coffee or a drink with them, and they're supporting us full time. So it's just try to take advantage of any opportunity that you receive.
Another great question coming in about financial support or assistance. Are there scholarships or bursaries available to candidates? And this one's just a pretty short answer. The answer is yes. There are bursaries available based on financial need, valued up to $5,000. And so complete the bursary application when you get accepted into the program, and those bursaries are available. Another really good question has to do with co-op. So when you get accepted into the Next 36 as a candidate after the selection weekend in late November, you will go back to your home university, your home campus, and continue working at school, but also working on your venture during a remote period, which will go until the end of April. Many of the candidates in the program are co-op students, and I know a number of you that are watching live today are also co-op students. And how does this work? As long as the co-op is not during the Summer Entrepreneurship Institute, you're completely able to manage both, although it might be challenging at times. And Conrad is actually in the co-op program at the University of Waterloo, and I thought maybe he could talk a little bit about that.
Sure, John. So, yep, so from January to April, which is during the remote periods of the program, I was actually working in San Francisco at a startup. And so my hours would probably, get up at 9, work on Next 36 for 2 hours, get to work at 11, stay at work till usually 7 or 8, come home, make dinner, and then work on Next 36 related stuff for the next 5 or 6 hours till I fall asleep. And I found that being actually on my co-op turn during the program was really advantageous to me, because I didn't have to worry about assignments or tests or exams or any of the school-related things. I could just go to work, come back, and just focus on Keyros. So I thought it was really beneficial that I was actually on co-op during the remote periods of the program.
Great, excellent question. I've been asked to summarize some of the key points I've made around strengthening the application for candidates for 2013. And so most of these you've already heard before, but number one is to apply early. Again, show us you're keen and get your application in before that September 18th application deadline. Number two is to broaden your definition of what is entrepreneurship and highlight those on your application. Number three is to do research on the program. Show us, whether it's in the interview, the video interview, or during the first stage of the application, that you understand what the program is all about and you understand the expectations that will be on you should you get accepted. Number four is to highlight any technical or programming skills that you have, and if not, if you don't possess them, look for ways to develop them. Number five is to highlight any subject matter expertise that you have or any passions that you have wherever you're able to in the process. And finally, talk to people, talk to alumni, talk to faculty that are familiar with the program. That ties into the research piece so that you know what you're getting yourself into. The last question that I'm going to ask each of our candidates is why they would encourage their peers to apply to the Next 36. Why should someone apply to the program?
Oh, that's a good question. I think for myself, I was graduating, so a lot of my friends are going to go off on grad trips or do amazing things. But Next 36 is truly like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I strongly feel that being part of the program has completely changed the trajectory that my career and my life is going on. The people that you meet are phenomenal. They're friends for life, and it's just you can't afford to miss out on this opportunity. Don't wonder what if. So do apply. And to John's earlier point, if any of you guys have any questions, you can reach me at jane@penyoandpal.com. It's pretty easy. So I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have more specifically, as I'm sure Conrad and Anne-Marie will be too.
Yeah, so I guess just to add on to what Jane said, I think the biggest reason why you want to apply for the Next 36 is to really create something of value for Canada. The overlying mission for the Next 36 is really to increase Canadian prosperity. And it may not necessarily be through this venture, but maybe 5 to 10 years down the road, when you have that network, when you have that experience of making maybe 1 or 2 failures, you'll know exactly what you need to do to create something of tremendous value, to maybe create the next Google or the next RIM for Canada. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email at Conrad@keyrostown.com. I'd love to chat.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you guys. This program is hard. And if you're not ready to take on that challenge, don't apply. Like, you really gotta want it really bad. Most of the people that apply to the program are top of their class, have had huge success in things outside of the classroom as well. And I think all of us are people who've had previous successes, whether it be with previous ventures or leadership initiatives in their universities. And it's about taking that bar that you've set for yourself at that university level and raising it much, much higher. So after university, I was like, well, the bar's here, and I'm pretty close to where I need to be successful in life. But when you get into the Next 36, the bar gets here. And you're like, okay, well, now I really, really have to develop to be able to reach that bar on a personal level, but also to create the change that you want to see in your community, in the country, in the world. You want to make a big impact, and I think that's all what we're here to strive to achieve, and the Next 36 provides the base resources in order to make that a reality.
What a fantastic note to end on. Thank you, Anne-Marie and Conrad and Jane, for sharing your experience with all of our potential applicants. I really appreciate it. I would like to thank all of you out there for participating in today's webinar, and thank you for your great questions. I encourage you to keep them coming. Continue to use hashtag ApplyN36. Continue to email us at info@thenext36.ca. We will be posting the video from this webinar. We've been recording it shortly, so if you want to either come back and see how we answered some of these questions or share it with like-minded students, we really encourage you to do so. I want to wish all of you the best of luck with your application, and we look forward to receiving it and hope to meet you in person at our National Selection Weekend. Thank you.